Hello class. Today I will be going through the crystal ball experiment number 11 in the Arduino book. And I'm using a Prezi to display my information. So let's begin. So overview. What will the circuit do? So the ending result that we want the circuit to do will be display two lines of characters and be able to cycle through a variety of different responses and outcomes. And it will display these characters on an LCD screen. And to cycle through these different outcomes, there will be a knob for dimming the display of the LCD screen, as well as displaying different outcomes through some circuitry and some program related things, which I will explain in a couple more slides. And it will be fortune telling circuit style. So let's begin. So hardware. So for this experiment there were a lot of wires and a lot of wires to keep up with. So there are about 12 or 13 wires in all. And there was also the use of a tilt switch, but we did not use a tilt switch for ours. Instead we bypassed it through a wire. David was telling us that we actually didn't need this tilt switch to actually make the circuit happen. It would be a lot easier if we used a wire instead, because the tilt switch that was provided in the Arduino kit was very loose and rickety, and that could potentially disrupt our circuitry, and it would be a lot safer just to use a wire. So we also used an LCD screen, which was the main focus of this particular experiment, which we will get into later in the presentation. And there were a combination of resistors, two resistors in all. One of them was a 220 ohm, and I believe the other one was a 100 ohm, but I am unsure. Software. So I'm going to go through the software for this experiment. It was a little lengthy, so I summarized it into a couple of important things that we should know about the code. So the code starts off Liquid Crystal. This was a preloaded code which kind of tells where the LCD screen is, and which from here you can see LCD, and these numbers right here are the different ports on the LCD screen. The LCD screen comes with about 13 or so ports, which are all assigned different functions. So these 6. These 6 different ports are the ones that are going to be focused on in this experiment. So 12, 11, 5, 3, and 2 are the ones going to be used on the LCD screen with respect to the code itself. Not with the power. The power will come to one of the other ones, but it just doesn't need to be preloaded into this preloaded code. So software part 2. So this code right here holds the switch pin allowing initial state of the circuit. So it will basically tell the circuit where it needs to start, and because the code can't just start from nowhere, it has to start from a certain place, and this code allows that. And it leads up into the dimensions. So on the LCD screen there are 2 lines of pixels that you could use. So the top has 16 characters which you can use, and the bottom has 16 characters. And so right here you can see 16 by 2. So 16 characters on the top and 2 lines. And at line 10 it'll be LCD print ask the, which is the first line of characters. And then to go to the second line of characters, you set the cursor on the second line, which is this 0, 1, so this is the second line. and it will print crystal ball. So you will see ask the on top, crystal ball on bottom. And notice that both of these are under 16 characters each. Looping the outcomes. So right here, this is the most important part of this code, random 8. So this random 8, it randomizes the 8 outcomes, which are highlighted in a couple more slides from now, and it will allow for the randomness of the fortune telling, because what fortune is at random, right? So, and here are the different cases and outcomes. So this first LCD print, the ball says. So the ball says is the first line of characters on the LCD screen, because notice there are 2. Reinstate that. And then set cursor 0, 1. So this is the second line of code which we saw from the previous slide. And switch reply. So this will allow you to create different cases. And there are 8 cases, I believe, on this one, since we did random 8. And it'll be LCD print yes, most likely, certainly, outlook good. Most of these fortunes were very positive, so I don't know what that says about fortune telling. But so then you have to put a break in between each one of these to add another case onto it. So this is our initial build. This build we did on Tuesday, and we had problems with the circuit itself. As you can see, there are a lot of wires, and they're kind of all over the place and really not in any particular order. So you can imagine our frustration when we plugged in the LCD screen and loaded the program and nothing came up on it. So we had to kind of go through and diagnose the problem, and we didn't come up with a clear-cut answer. And the bypass which the tilt switch would have been, would be right here, but you'll see a clearer picture on the next slide where it actually worked. So this is our second build, and you can see it says ask the crystal ball, and the ball says most likely. So it went through perfectly, and we asked the fortune, and of course it gave us a randomized answer. Right here you can see the tilt switch, or the bypass, that we put in. Right here it's smaller, and also it allows for more room in the circuit and doesn't take up nearly as much room as the tilt switch would have, and would have caused problems. As you can see, his finger is on this knob, which dims and brightens the LCD panel, because you can see a clearer picture right here. This wire right here, it's actually connected to one of the prongs because it doesn't actually fit inside the breadboard. So we had to like do an alternate wiring per se, and you had to kind of push it in to get it to read in the circuit. And if you disconnect this potentiometer, you pull it out and put it back in, then it tells you your fortune. Yep. So how does it work? Just start by turning the potentiometer to adjust the contrast in the screen, and second, plug the turn switch to see responses. So you'll see different responses every time you plug in the potentiometer, and it'll loop back into that random 8 code that we discussed earlier. So extensions. So through the use of extensions, through the use of code, we can extend this experiment even further. So we can add more responses, and we can vary responses. So instead of having a more positive outcome, we could add a very negative outcome. I don't know if that's what anybody wants, but got to keep it positive. So case 2, you can add another case 3, case 4, all the way up to how many you want. And when LCD print, And then this is the code that you want to modify if you want to display an outcome. Remember that the first line of code is already occupied by the crystal ball says, or it says. So you have 16 characters here to work with. And then you break and go to the next case. Or if you want to end the code altogether, you enter 3 brackets on different lines. So it'll just end that line of code through the cases. Special devices. So our special device, of course, was the LCD screen. And as we discussed earlier, the prongs on the screen assign functions to the LCD panel through the use of code, and different prongs add power, and so on and so forth. So there are about 13 or so prongs on this LCD panel, so there's a lot of things that you could actually do with it. And remember that you are able to display 2 lines or 2 rows and 32 characters, 16 per line. So on the first line you can have 16, and the second line you have 16. So it's 32 altogether. So from the Arduino book, it showed how an LCD screen actually works. So LCD screens work by changing the electrical properties of a liquid sandwiched between polarized glass. The glass only allows certain kinds of light to pass through it. So when liquid between the glass is charged, it starts to form into a semi-solid state. This new state runs in a different direction than the polarized glass, blocking light from passing through, and thus it creates the characters that you see on the LCD screen, and that we have demonstrated through the use of code and circuitry. So in conclusion, LCD panels are really cool pieces of circuitry that you can have a lot of fun with, and you can get a fortune at the same time. So LCD panels are, it was a little bit involved with the amount of prongs and the different assignment and the use of wires that was very extensive and expansive, but they can turn out to make some really cool things happen. So I hope you enjoyed my Arduino presentation of the crystal ball. Thank you.